You're listening to the Cars of Carlisle Network, podcast episode number 98, Bill Sangrey Part 3, True R Code 1970 Hemi Cuda.
Cars of Carlisle is your favorite internationally downloaded podcast about all things automotive. Darren and his CFC team are ever searching for interesting automotive happenings, real stories about real car people, and fun features to inform and entertain you. Each week, the Cars of Carlisle crew brings you show topics ranging from car shows to team adventures to auto racing weekends to behind-the-scenes human interest stories from car nuts that live across town, across the country, or even across the globe. Come join the road trip.
Today it's back to the ultimate man cave garage of Cuber Bill Sangrey. In this trip, we spend time learning about Bill's 1970 Hemi Cuda with its first generation 426 cubic inch high nickel alloy cast iron block. This black True R Code Hemi Cuda is believed to be one of only 7. Over the 30 years of ownership, 16 of those went to countless hours of detailed restoration, spanning from 2003 to 2019. Ride along on Bill's journey through the provenance and history of his car, from the time his Cuda rolled off the Hamtramck assembly line on July 7, 1970, right up to current day, as well as the concourse-level events Bill is planning to attend. It's time to pull into the Sangrey Garage to learn more about this Chrysler E body. So, let's get revved up!
Hello and welcome back, Cubers, to your favorite informative automotive podcast. I am your trusted host, Darren, and thank you so much for joining us. This is the third installment where we are over at Bill Sangrey's garage, and just in the past couple months, he finished up his gorgeous black over black 70 Hemi Cuda, and he spent a Saturday morning with a couple of us on the team. We did the walk around, and he did a start up, and had a great time, just really enjoying the stories and everything going into 3 decades of him owning that car and putting 16 years of painstaking attention into every detail and making it such a fine restoration. So we are really excited for you to be part of that and to hear that today. And with that, we know that everyone's probably going through all over the world, all of our friends and fans, no matter where you are, certainly with everything happening with the COVID-19, the coronavirus, it has everybody a little bit on edge. And if nothing else, just know that we're all one community and one human race, and hang in there and look out for yourself, but also look out for your fellow man. But let's get into the quick trivia question. And this one, I wanted something that is along the lines of Cuda and pays homage to the Plymouth Cuda. And with that, we're going to talk a little bit about, we had done a feature some time ago, but this particular question is about the AAR Cuda, and why was it that the antenna was not on the front of the vehicle up by the hood? We'll have that answer at the end of the show. So for now, let's head down towards Mount Holly Springs and hang out with our friend Bill. I am here at the amazing man cave / garage of Bill Sangrey. Back again. Bill's actually one of the biggest fans of our show, and I can count on him to listen every Wednesday as he's driving down to the AACA Museum as a volunteer. So
I do.
I appreciate it. It's always great to have you along with us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
But it's kind of neat, and since he told me about this 70 Cuda, I've been enamored with it because it's essentially the same age as me. And so I wanted to ask Bill if there's a Saturday morning that he and I can get together and talk about the restoration and all the painstaking love he's put into this car. And it's a real Hemi Cuda. The 5th VIN number is an R, and Bill has done great documentation to show the provenance of the vehicle and everything, and that obviously indicates it's a Hemi car. He's been teaching me as we go, so I learned a little bit more about it. What's really amazing, too, this is only one of 7 black Cudas for this age.
That's what my understanding is.
Yeah.
So
rarity
of the 70, the 70 model year for
Yeah. So that makes it, in my mind, pretty amazing. You've put a lot into it. In fact, 16 years is the painstaking.
Took it apart in 2003.
Okay.
And that's when I took it apart.
And this car came from Belmar, New Jersey. From your notes, the Gundaker Chrysler Plymouth, correct?
Right. That's what I've tracked it down to.
Okay. Well, I'm just amazed at. We were just talking about as you fired it up and kicked it over, and we'll try and put a soundbite here in this episode. But you want to talk a little bit. Well, I'm kind of talking. We're going a little bit in reverse order chronologically, but you had a deadline that you were working to when we first came to talk with you, and you worked your tail off to get there.
And didn't make it.
Yeah.
Actually, when we talked about it,
yeah.
the goal was to have it at the Hemmings concourse up in Lake George. And some things intervened, and I did not get it done.
Life kind of came out.
Yeah, the wife had a medical problem.
Sure.
And so it just, I said, wait a minute, okay, this... I didn't want to rush it, and I was rushing, and that was not going to be a good thing. Actually, I guess it was a show. It was a show in an AACA show, and then it was going to be Lake George, and it finally ended up being the Hershey show in October.
Right.
So, but we finally made that. We drove it onto the field in October, and it got its first junior award. So I was glad to do that, and we'll take it down to Charlotte next month. So, but you know, to have been working on it for 16 years, then rushing at the end.
Yeah,
you know,
it seems counterintuitive.
The other thing is you can see the sticker, the thing that's hanging on the window there. They're never done.
I love your punch list.
They're like on a punch list that just keeps getting longer and longer. So it does take a while. But I took it apart right before I retired in 2003, and it got some work done, got the body work done and that sort of thing. But going all the way back, I bought the car in 1990 from my godson up in Jersey, and that came about because he and his dad, I went to college with his dad, University of Maryland Engineering School, and we were sitting at a table at that time we lived in Virginia, and his father said, "Hey, Michael has a car that you might be interested in." I went, "What am I, what?" He said, I said, "Why? What?" And he said, "Well, it's a Plymouth Barracuda, and it's got an R in the VIN number."
You sat up straight.
And I went, "Yeah." So what came out of that visit was, "Michael, when you decide you're done with the car," and I think that was it was in the 80s sometime, late 80s, I said, "You call me and you just tell me what to write the check for. Period. End of discussion." I says, "There's going to be no..."
Yeah.
And in 90, he called me and said, "Hey, Bill, I'm ready. Write me a check." So I wrote him a check and went and got it. And
for your notes, $3,500.
$3,500 is what I paid for the car. On the way home, trailering it down in an open trailer, I stopped in Cherry Hill at my brother's place, and a guy came up and said, "I'll give you 10 for it." 10 grand. And I had multiple offers like that. But then it went in the basement, and it sat there for, it sat in the basement while I did my Dodge, got my Dodge done, and that sort of thing. And then before I got retired, I took it apart and to get the bodywork right. Having been in Jersey, in the North Shore, this car, unfortunately, and it leads to a kind of a what's changed in our hobby point. This car had rusted from the bottom up and from the top down. Wow. One of the things we discovered was, and it was not a vinyl roof car. It was just it's a low content car, but what we discovered was the top was rusted. When we pulled the trim off, we discovered the top was rusted back into the top. Oof. But the A-pillar on the left side was about half gone.
Okay.
So I went to, with the guy who was doing the body work, went to Erie and bought a 73 car that was rusted out and burnt. Had caught fire, the interior caught fire, and I bought that car to get the top. And my point that I was leading to, in the intervening years since I started that in 2003, you can now buy a reproduction top. At the same time, when I was doing the body work, I bought skins to put on the rear quarter panels. You could buy the inner fenders, or the outer wheelhouse, I should say. Then you could buy the trunk extensions, but this car needed trunk extensions, trunk floor, main cabin floor, both quarter panels, replaced both fenders. There's a lot of work, and the top, a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now the panels between the panel between the rear window and the trunk lid, that was not really bad. We were able to save that, but we had to replace the trunk lid itself.
Oh, wow.
The tail panel was okay. It had to be repaired. The rear valance took a lot of work. The front valance took a whole bunch of work because it had been run into something. So it's easier to say what wasn't replaced on the car. You know, the hood, the shaker hood was not replaced. The doors were not replaced.
Okay.
And the tail panel wasn't replaced. Front valance wasn't replaced. And the unit body, the unit frame, if I can call it that, it was not replaced, but it had a lot of work. At one point, the guy doing the body work, a very good guy down in Broadway, he called me one day and said, "Bill, you'd be money ahead if you rebodied the car," which means cut out the pieces of metal and transfer them to another car. And there's just a couple of those, one on the radiator core support and the other one on the cowl. I said, "Jerry, I'm not going to do that.
No.
I mean, if I have to do that, heck with it. I'll just crush it. To hell with it."
Sure.
And no, I should go all the way back and say when I bought the car, it did not have the Hemi in it.
Okay.
Part of the
That's
story
right.
is
It's the crate.
and part of this, not actually a crate motor. I'll just to give you a little bit about. The block was in a box, but it was not a crate motor.
Okay.
I started working on this car before you could buy the crate motor from Chrysler. I don't, it's the second generation Hemi.
Gotcha.
From Chrysler.
So this was just stock that never was bought or used.
Yeah, the block. I bought all the parts for all the major parts from a hot rodder in La Plata, Maryland. He was going to put them in a 32 3-window coupe, and he decided to go to Ray Barton and have Ray Barton build a motor. But what I got from him, the key thing I got from him, was a brand new, still in the box, high nickel, high alloy, stronger, 1974 426 Hemi block, and a new Kellogg crank and new rods
Wasn't it like I know from your notes the Wisco forged pistons, right?
Yeah. Well, I've now put I put the Wisco forged pistons in it, and it came with forged pistons, but they were 12.5 to 1, and that's what he was going to build. And
these are 10 1/4.
These are 10 1/4. You know, I wanted. The motor as built after we CC'd it is actually right around 9.5, so it doesn't have a lot of compression, and I didn't want 12.5 to 1. I mean that sounds great, but where do you go to get the gasoline for that? I mean this is bad enough in that regard. But the main thing was that the short block was really all what I got done with it was all new. Now I got 69 heads from 1969s. One of the carburetors is correct for this application being 1970 automatic. I think it's the rear carburetor changes depending upon whether it's automatic or 4-speed. And I think the front carburetor, it's a 2.4 inline. As you Hemi guys out there know, that's what they were. It's not a 3.2 setup like in the 440s. I think one of them is not correct for this motor, but you can't see it anyway.
Right.
I mean, when you put that great big bubble on top of
that's
it,
right.
This morning when I tried to fire it up, I've got the base plate sitting there, and I'm trying to reach underneath of it to get the choke to operate. Well, that just doesn't happen. I mean, you have to take all that stuff off. Right now, if the listeners were to walk over there, they'd see 2 carburetors sitting on top of an engine, and over on the bench is all this other. I mean, that bubble on top of that engine is something else. And
I'll put some photos out at Instagram so everybody can see what we're looking at.
Right before we came to sit down here, and I fired it up. Darren saw me go over and get the fire extinguisher. And,
I sure did.
Sit it there by the car.
And I thought to myself, what a smart man.
I knock on wood. I've been lucky on that, but the engine really I haven't run the engine since probably November or something like that. Mm-hmm. And as I told you, a couple of things I'm trying to work out. So it's a real Hemi car. Mm-hmm. It's a very late Hemi car. What I'm trying to find, and maybe somebody out there knows who's listening to this, what was the last Hemi in '70? I just don't know. I don't know how long they built them. Mm-hmm. And I haven't been able to figure out what the VIN sequence is yet. Mm-hmm. But the sticker on the door says it's July 7th.
That's pretty good.
And it's a very late. It is a very late car, and as you said, it's back in that period of time, nobody was really buying black or white cars. They were buying plum crazy.
Yep.
They're buying lemon twist the high impact colors.
Sure.
So people weren't buying black cars. They really weren't.
Well, I think what's amazing to me is, and I'll try and take the photos so people can see it, but the striping, always an option, but not necessarily standard equipment. And I like how you've done it because it's subtle, and only in certain light can you really appreciate it. And it's just, do you want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. First of all, I don't have the build sheet. Okay. Where it went, I found a build sheet in the car for a lemon twist vinyl top black 340. Obviously wasn't my car. Mm-hmm. It was in the back of the seat where you expect to see it, but in the back of the front seat, passenger seat. It was not underneath the rear cushion. It was not up behind the glove box.
Places you'd expect.
The places to look, it wasn't there. So the only documentation that I have on the car is the fender tag. Actually, both fender tags. I have the fender tag that details the options, and then the Hemi fender. There's an extra tag that says Hemi fender, which is a detail that's different about the Hemi cars. But there's nothing on there about this car having a stripe. The way I have the car presented is with a black stripe, and black was the stripe was optional in black. I believe this car did not come with a stripe. Okay?
The hockey
it
stick.
It didn't. I don't think it was there.
There's a billboard and the hockey stick, right?
Billboard was 71.
71, okay.
No, hockey stick was 70.
Gotcha.
And the other unique thing about it, the billboard in 71, you could get black or white. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever seen a 71 with a black billboard. I think I may have seen one. Okay. You don't see this very often. I personally believe this car did not have the stripe. Sure. Okay, it's not on the fender tag. If it was on the car, it ought to be on the fender tag. The Dart that I have over here, the 69 Dart, that car came standard with a stripe in 69. Okay. This car was striped elite. The Dodge was striped elite. That's on the fender tag of that car. The striped elite option is on the fender tag. So I think if the Cuda would have had a stripe, it would be on that fender tag. It does not.
That's good logic.
And the other thing, when I got the car, it had power steering. I left it that way. When if you change it back, I could have put a manual box on it, and one of my friends, Glenn, said, "You really don't want to do that. It's not going to be any fun to drive if you really don't want to do that."
That's when muscle cars, you're building your biceps.
Yeah. There's a lot of weight up there in the front of the front tires. Yeah. So there's one. Oh yeah, the other thing. Interestingly enough, on this car, and it is the story of the car. This car came with an open, non-sure grip, standard rear. What does that mean? 323 rear, open, 8 3/4 inch rear, which was the standard rear for big block cars.
Okay.
And
because the Dana wasn't an option at
the Dana was.
Oh, what? Okay.
And I talked to the original owner back when I bought the car. I managed to talk to everybody at that time that had the car, so I developed this story and discovered the story from talking to him. He ordered it. Oh, by the way, he was a mechanic at a Chevrolet dealership, so I can imagine where he had to park. And but he ordered it with a Dana, and I think he didn't know what he needed to do to get the Dana.
Okay.
But make a long story short, he couldn't get it, didn't get it. He ordered it in December. And finally in May, I just said something like, well, put a rear in it and ship it. I can imagine
he was frustrated.
He was frustrated, and I think he didn't know you needed to order the Super Track pack. I mean, I think he didn't know something, or he didn't know somebody.
Okay.
But in any case, the car came with an open rear. Now, day 2 he put a sure grip in it, and that's what's in it now is a sure grip, but it's a 323. I was going to put a Dana in it. When I first started, when I first started down the path of restoring it, I was going to do a day 2 car, headers and all that. So I said, it's not the original motor. What the hell? And I was going to put a Dana under it, saying I'll make it the way that he wanted it.
Yes.
And I had the rear and everything, and I finally said, no.
What do you think maybe changed back to course?
Me change the course?
Yeah. What kind of changed your heart back to the?
I'm an original.
Yeah, I know you're a purist.
Original. I'm a purist in that sense, and I said, you know what? Well, I was looking at the auction, saying, this car's bringing damn good money.
Yeah.
So, I've ridden that roller coaster of the prices of the cars. So that's what changed my course.
Gotcha.
Was my originality view and the value of the car. Okay. Now, the other thing about the value of the car is, hey guys, it's a Plymouth. Come on, let's be reasonable. It's a Plymouth. I know it's a rare Plymouth, but it's a Plymouth. I mean, go shut the door. It's not that quality clunk sound that you'd like to hear. But in any case, it changed it, and I sold some of those parts, sold the Dana, put everything back as good as I could make. My objective, however, in this is frankly AACA judging. I won't, OEM judging, that sort of thing. I'll never, the car will never be to that point because it doesn't have the original motor, original trans, or for that matter, the original rear. I mean, all of that's gone.
Out of your control.
So, I mean, I'm just not going to go do that. It's these cars are difficult enough to do and expensive enough. This is by far the most expensive restoration that I've done. I'm sure. Be that for myself or somebody else. They're just really, really expensive to do. And, of course, they're worth it. I mean, I've tried to keep it because the lady in the house in there one day asked me, but I've tried to keep it to the point where my expense is within the range of what I think the car's worth.
Gotcha.
So
you got to keep the other House of Congress somewhat, satisfied.
I went probably pretty close. I think it was up to the point where we're writing the last check on the paint job. So, I mean, that's pretty close to 15 years because I finished painting it. No, it was 11 years at that point from the time it started. And we're writing the last check, and she said, she asked the question. I went, There was a series of 3 questions. How much more? How much have you? And what's it going to be worth when it's done? And I was able to get through all of that. And
so A and B at least added up. Just
it's
C
under
more than the A.
What I reasonably think it could be sold for. So.
Well, then that's all that matters. Well, I know you hit 2 major roadblocks or challenges, if you will, in this whole restoration. Do you want to hit on what those were?
Yeah. The big challenges were for me that I'd never done an E body. I've done a B body, Super B, and I did the A body over here, but this is different. The E bodies are different. Now, somebody says, come on, Bill. But they are different. The other thing that was really different is the fact that this car lost its Hemi engine in 1973 from talking to the owners in the fuel crisis, and that's kind of a automotive history and economy history and world history kind of thing. In 1973, a car that got 4 to 6 miles to the gallon. Well, people took the motors out of them.
Especially when you can only buy gas 3 days a week or whatever.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, my records say it happened in 73, but a 360 went in it. And I'm now beginning to question that. But early in its life, it got a 360 in it. Okay. I think the 360 was just out in 73. So I'm not really sure whether it was 73 or 75. but there were two. I think there were two, as I remember, there were two fuel crises in that period of time. Okay. But this lost its motor early on in the 70s due to the fuel crisis, the cost of fuel, and the motor came out, went into one of the early owners' basement, and it sat there for 12 years. And then a racing guy bought it, put it in a Charger, and blew it up at Englishtown. And I got a hold of him in like 91, and he said it's buried somewhere in a landfill in Long Island. Wow. Now, I wasn't, you can kind of laugh about this, but I wasn't smart enough to say what landfill, and go. But he said there wasn't anything left. Okay. So, I don't know what happened to it. Yeah. But also the transmission went away. Sure. The bubble went away. Sure. I mean, when I say the bubble, the shaker, shaker. Right. The hood didn't go away. When I got it, it had one of those Ram Charger intake. I mean,
like
hood scoops. Mm-hmm. They're about 3 inches tall or something like that, and that was screwed onto holes drilled in the hood, screwed, and that was one thing we had to fix. We had to fix the hood, the holes in the hood through the frame of the hood and everything else. But that's the way I got it with a 360. So what's the point of that discussion? Everything in the engine compartment that was unique to Hemi wasn't there.
Wiring, right? I mean,
wiring
and all that.
I mean, the one I tell the big example is the choke heater mechanism, the choke heater tube. Mm-hmm. I mean, it took me weeks to figure out what that was, and then more weeks to figure out where I could get it. Mm-hmm. When I was doing the day 2, I wasn't worried about it because it had headers. Sure. But now I'm putting cast iron headers on it, and that heater tube, it's a cold air tube that goes down. It must go 3 feet. I swear to goodness, a big long tube that goes down and then comes up through the bottom of the exhaust manifold, the cast iron exhaust manifold, goes through an 8-inch long pipe that is in the exhaust manifold, and then it goes up to the carburetor, and that's another 18-inch pipe. Well, I'm standing there looking at my reproduction exhaust manifolds, and there's no hole. So I got to drill a hole, an 8-inch long hole, basically, from one side to the other side. Yeah. Well, that's not going to happen on that drill press over there. Not with Bill running it. So, so I had the tubes, and I took it into UCF in here in Carlisle, and they said okay, and they did that for me. Wow. They drilled it because, I can drill the hole. Sure. But it needs to be in line with the other hole.
That's exactly right.
It was I'm not gonna.
That takes some.
It takes somebody who knows what they're doing better than me.
That's right.
So it's that kind of stuff. But like you said, wiring. Yeah, the torque boxes back, the rear springs, they were still there. The springs were still in the car. The rear springs were still in the car. The major body aspects were still there. Good news for me, the radiator was the original radiator. Right. The core support was the original radiator.
And you've had some gremlins like the wipers and radio, but it was you kind of.
Oh yeah, we got it in today and fired it up, and the radio was playing. So
the gremlins decided, okay, we'll give that one back to you.
Well, it works out. You got in this morning, and your Z06 didn't exactly run right. I get in mine, and the damn radio works for the first time in 6 months. So I don't know what's going on. You got the PSS, you got the sticky tires on there?
Yes.
You do? Okay, so it's warm enough today to run them?
Well, I'm not doing anything crazy, just straight line.
Yeah, because I've got the insurance off my my C7, so I won't get it out until the end of the month. So, but so let's see. The engine, it looks like the original thing, and it's not period correct. It's not matching numbers. Sure. And I haven't made any attempt to do this. It's got a 74 block in a 70 car. Okay.
But it's tastefully done. That's the thing.
Well, it is, and the key thing is it is a real Hemi. I mean, I know that. Back on what it is, I said it was a low content car. It's got an AM/FM radio and bucket seats. It was a very low content car. You got to keep in mind though, the car was something like 3,000, 3,100, and the engine was 800. So I mean that's about a $4,000 car. Yeah. Bought by a Chevy mechanic. All right. The other thing about the story of the car, it lived its whole life in the North Shore Jersey.
Okay.
My godson lived in Freehold.
Went to school there, I think you said too.
He went to school. He went to school there.
Wasn't there a nickname you wanted to share? That?
Drager's Cuda.
Yeah.
That's Michael's last name. Now, he drove the car in Freehold at Freehold High School.
Okay.
He bought it. To kind of wrap up the point, the first guy that bought it was mechanic. All the guys, and at the time that Michael bought it, he was one of those guys. They were all mechanics, auto parts guys, pump jockeys, because in Jersey you can't pump your own gas.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
Still can.
Michael was working at the Exxon station there in Freehold when he bought it. Now, when I finished the car and took it to Hershey, Michael had been trying to get to see it, he works in Manhattan, so he and his dad and mother came out and looked at it. He walked around the side of the car, and there on the one of two pieces of glass that I didn't replace, I didn't replace the rear quarter windows, is the Freehold High School parking sticker. And it kind of made his day. He said, "You kept it."
That's cool.
I did keep that. So I don't know whether it'll ever get nicked by the AACA judges for having an incorrect sticker on it, but I don't care. It's part of the story of the car.
Yeah.
And as I said, those two pieces of glass are okay. Everything else
That's cool.
everything else is all scratched and replaced. But the windshield wipers still aren't on it because I haven't figured out where they are, and where they're parking. But the radio works. So hey, maybe the wipers worked. I don't know.
I'm thinking maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
Something good happened overnight.
Yeah, it's something. Well, so that saves me one less thing. The parking brake light still comes on, so I have to fix that.
Okay.
I saw that this morning. So.
Okay.
So.
Well, I would definitely want to give you final lap and final word, but I know there's a whole list of people that you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you may not want to go through all of it, but there's some really key.
Yeah,
key
we got
areas
this
and
list here.
companies and,
The guy that built my engine is a guy by the name of John Bissell, and he's built all my engines that I've done. We were looking at this Corvette that I got a part over here. That engine will go to John. Now, he doesn't run a business.
Yeah.
He's a good hobby guy,
Yeah.
and he helped me build. We built it in my garage, but John did all the work. Some of the good people like around here. Gordon's Glass, Dale Gordon, did all the glass work for me. He didn't provide the glass. I got the glass elsewhere, at ESC, I think. But the kind of thing that he did, he's a car guy. He came out and test fit the glass.
Gotcha.
Then he went away.
Right.
Then he came back out and test fit all the stainless before I buffed it.
Smart.
Okay. So now we knew the glass fit the car.
Yep.
We knew the car fit the glass.
Yep.
We knew the stainless, which was a combination of several cars.
Sure.
That all fit back on there. Then I went and buffed it. And then he came back, and so he came back several times to he and his son Zach to make that happen.
You'll have to send this episode to these guys by email just so they know.
Yeah,
how much
well, I think I told him
it.
about it.
Good.
Another local guy, Gary Lebo, Lebo's steering wheels out there. As I say, down 11. Most people here say up 11, but when I think you go to Shippensburg, you're going down 11. But
yeah, to me, it's south is down.
So yeah, but that's not apparently the way people feel. But Gary did the steering wheel restoration for me. Instrument specialties, like I said, ECS did the glass and the labels and stuff like that, and then to just kind of shout out to two guys. Two Mopar guys, Glenn Keller and Drew Park, guys that have done just a bunch of, particularly e-body cars. I can't tell you how many times I pick the phone up and says, "How do I make this work?" I mean,
where does this go?
Where does this go? I'm standing here with the ashtray in my hand, and well, send me a picture. What the heck you're talking about, Sangrey? I don't know.
Right.
So it's been a fun journey.
And what does the car mean to you, your wife, your sons? I mean, it's almost done. I know you're taking it to Charlotte. You're going to have it out and enjoy it some maybe this summer. But what's the next chapter for this Cuda?
Probably not going to drive it for a while.
Okay.
It's really too nice.
Sure.
The boys have looked at it and said, "Dad, it's too nice for us to have." They said, "Hey, Pop, when you're done with it, sell it and buy each one of us a Cobra. so that's their view of it, and I get that. I get that. It's I'll probably never drive it, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I'll probably end up selling it. Now, going back to that Freehold High School sticker, first guy I'm calling is Michael. Okay, because he said when he saw the Hershey, Bill, when you come to sell this, you call me. So he would like to have it back.
Sure.
And I think he knows the price tag on it. It's not $3,500.
Oh no.
But I would, I'd like to put some miles. It needs to have some miles put on it. It really does.
Right.
I mean, it need to be able to walk out in the garage, fire it up, and not have to worry about it.
Right.
It needs that. But I'm still debugging it.
Sure.
I mean, one thing, like at Charlotte and the AAC meets, you have to drive it on the field.
Yes.
So it's got to do that. So
and
that's where it does that. Yeah. And
it'll get some slow miles.
Yeah, it won't get many. I mean, ultimately, I mean, what else would I like to do with it? I'd like to take it to some really named concourse. I would like to get it up to the Hemmings concourse.
Nothing like Amelia Island or that.
Well, you got to be invited to some of those. So I got to do a little promoting of the car.
Sure.
But I'd kind of like to get that if I can get it. Will it go to McCacken in Chicago? Probably not. It's probably not that good. But it's mine. It's what I got. So
a lot of love in it.
Yeah. So it's just been a long journey.
Sure.
It's been fun, frustrating at times.
Sure.
There was one thing you asked me about the challenges I had, and I forgot to mention it. One of the biggest challenges I had was I took it apart 16 years ago.
Oh.
And I didn't know where some of the stuff was.
And you're a good organizer and a good labeler.
Well, pretty good organizer.
But that's a long time.
But yeah, I couldn't find the rod that connects from the brake pedal to the master cylinder, and they're all different depending upon whether it's drum brakes, power brakes, disc brakes, whatever.
Yeah.
And I knew I had it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to point. It was sitting right over there on the corner of that table where all the other hardware was, but it was sitting on the table, on the corner, among several other long black phosphate bolts. There were several. I forget what the other bolts were. And I walked past that sucker for 6 months. And one day I looked down and, that's not a bolt. There it is. So, the parts were here. When I took it apart when I retired in Virginia.
You got to haul all that up here.
The body went to Broadway. It ended up being stored in a chicken coop then when the body work was done. All the parts went in a pod. They got stored for 2 years. And then I brought them all up here because we were building the house. We had the house built. So it was scattered all over the place. And when it got here, some of it was here in the garage, some of it was in the basement, some of it was up in the attic. It was all over I knew where it was. And my wife said, whatever you do, don't die on me because I won't know where the stuff is.
Right.
She didn't have any idea where it was.
Right.
So, and it was sitting here on the lift where the SVO's sitting now. It's just sitting there on a dolly and covered up and sat there for years. So anyway, but it's been fun. It's been fun.
That's
it's been
great.
Fun.
Well, any final word?
Well, I'm going to put a plug in for something that and we'll.
Please do, yeah.
And I really do appreciate the fact that you've promoted the AACA museum, and in particular, it's got a Hemi display.
Oh yeah, you're a big man on that. So.
Well, Thursday, and you'll find it sitting right over here on the bench. I have a new Hemi.
Okay.
Here in the garage. It's a Harbor Freight 212cc hemispherical lawnmower motor. And turns out, for all you Hemi guys out there, if you go in and ask for part number 60363, what you may get is, you're one of those guys. Because that's what I got.
Okay.
And finding them, they have 3 part numbers. Anyway, this engine over here, I'm going to take it apart and cross my fingers. I hope it really is a Hemi. YouTube says it's a Hemi. There's all the articles, all the YouTubes, but I'll put that in the display up at the museum, which starts in May and runs through November.
Yeah,
So it's been fun learning about all the Hemis, and the first Hemis were back in like '07.
Right.
And the hemispherical combustion chamber is not unique to Chrysler.
No.
Most of us think about that, but I think about it being Chrysler. But it's Aston Martin, Jaguars, Porsches, and even the old Saab 96 3-cylinder, 2-cycle, ring ding ding, and a cloud of smoke. It's a Hemi, for Christ's sake. So, it's kind of cool.
As the curator of all that, you know it better than anybody.
Well, it's fun.
Well, thank you for being a big fan of the show, and always great having you.
Welcome back to Studio A. Hope you guys enjoyed that time hanging out with Mr. Sangrey. Always enjoy talking with him, and he is a wealth of knowledge, and that Cuda, which we'll have pictures out on Instagram, is drop dead gorgeous. It truly is. Well, I owe you an answer to that trivia question, and along the same lines of Plymouth Cuda, I had said to you about the AAR Cuda, and what about that particular position of the antenna? Well, as we know, a detail like an antenna on an automobile, particularly of eras gone by, that engineers definitely had to put time and thought into that, because for optimal placement, we needed to get, as far as getting the best AM/FM signal, they had to consider all that. Well, what was unique about the AAR Cuda is the fact you had a fiberglass hood, and that truly did cause interference with the frequency modulation and with picking up the signal for the radio itself. So that required engineers to mount it to the rear. So an AAR Cuda owner could definitely enjoy music while driving down the road. So that is the answer to this week's trivia question. Also want to put a shout out to our headline corporate sponsor, Porsche Mechanicsburg. A big thank you to our friends there. In fact, if you are anywhere near the Carlisle area, the greater Cumberland County area, Mechanicsburg, Harrisburg, York, Camp Hill, definitely, if you are in the market for a Porsche, and you'd be surprised with some of the pre-owned, what amazing cars you can get second-hand, third-hand. Be sure to check them out. They are a part of the Faulkner Automotive Group, serving the Pennsylvania area since 1932. They're located at 6625 Carlisle Pike, and currently underway just a few hundred feet to the right. They are building a state-of-the-art Porsche Center, which will be completed here in the coming spring. We are really excited about that. And if you are a Porsche owner, be sure to check out the fact there's going to be an exclusive event coming up where they're going to be launching the Porsche Taycan. That'll be happening on May 8th at the Country Club of Harrisburg, 401 Fishing Creek Valley Road. And that is going to be an amazing event. They'll have all new Taycan Turbo S will be there. They'll have ride-alongs and demonstration, food, cocktails, etc. And you'll definitely want to be part of that exclusive event. So a big thank you to our corporate sponsor, Porsche Mechanicsburg. Before we close, I will hope you heard that gorgeous 426 Hemi as it was idling. You heard that as we came back into the studio. Bill had started up, and it was a cold start that Saturday morning, but real sweet sound coming from that. So again, please take care of yourself, and we can't wait to have you come back next Tuesday. We look forward to spending time with you. We love the fact that you are part of this road trip, and with that, we are always giving you the very best in content. Continue to write to us, share your comments, thoughts, and feedback, and the fact that you keep putting the word out for us, helping to share, promote, rate, review, and give us positive feedback. That really helps us expand and adds to our street cred, if you will. So can't wait to see you next week, or hear from you, or you hear from us, I should say. So for now, I'll simply say drive well, be well, take care.